so breaking news right before the Grand Prix this weekend. Daniel Ricciardo set to return to Red Bull Racing as a reserve driver. We hadn't heard much about this. There were rumors, but not really rumors.
Yeah, there was Mercedes and Red Bull bouncing back and forth.
But then last week in Sao Paulo with the Perez and Verstappen thing, it got me thinking, conspiracy style, right? Was this just a call after that from Horner or Marco to Ricciardo to be like, hey man, Max has a real tension with this guy right here.
Yeah.
And if you want to get back into a competitive car, play your position on the sides, and it might happen for you next year.
Yeah.
Or was it just simply like, hey, we'd love to have you back?
I honestly think it was the second one a little bit, because this has been in talks for a while. We've heard it for a couple months now. Not a couple months, but a few races, I should say. So I honestly think, it's maybe that kind of sealed the deal to bring Ricciardo back. But, Ricciardo was his most successful when he was with Red Bull. They had their controversy when Max came in and all that stuff. So I think if they look back at it now, they know Ricciardo can drive. They know he suited that team so well. They didn't want him to leave. It was his choice to leave. Maybe they had a little bit of a decision made before the race, but maybe that concreted it, having that controversy between the two of them. But really and truly, I don't think that was the final decision. Ricciardo is a talent, no matter what. If no matter what people say, yes, he struggled in that McLaren, but if you think about it, Lando's only driven that car for his whole life. He doesn't know anything different. So when you drive something so long, you're just used to it, and you never know anything else, right? So when he finally jumped into that car, Carlos Sainz told him it was a hard car to drive, and Ricciardo agreed. It was a very hard car to drive. So in the end, sometimes cars don't suit people, and they move on, and they jump into a car like the Red Bull, and it might suit them a little bit more. So I honestly think, in the end, I think it was a decision that was made before that, but I also think maybe it was a little bit of a push to kind of be like, hey, Perez, figure your stuff out. But that's another thing that, kind of was a touchy subject for this week. And I honestly, personally see Perez apologizing and saying he shouldn't have said this and shouldn't have said that. I think that's kind of horse. I think really and truly he was forced to say that. It's like, hey, guys, let's squash this in the media.
Apology tour from Red Bull made no sense. Like, they're like, he was told with only one corner. It's like, no. We as the fans have access to the onboards. Yeah, we can figure that out. Like that was in like the first sentence or two, and it's like, no, you guys are just lying. Yeah, like you just continue to lie. Yeah, like, enough. Look. Enough of that. We did very well on that video. As a matter of fact, I'll link it in the description below. Yeah. You can take a look and then, of course, drop a comment and let us know what you think about that. I just thought it was rather interesting, the timing of everything and the announcement of Ricciardo. And what I was saying to you about Perez earlier in the convo is, like, does that put him on the back foot? Like, how does he approach? I think you're absolutely right. I think if he's not training today, whether that be physically or whether that be, in the sim or just looking at data, like if he's not doing something today, this could be the beginning of the end for him. So I really do hope that, for his sake and for his family's sake and for everything that he had going on, because he had a decent season. I remember early in the season we were like, hold on a second, Red Bull has to give this guy a fair shot at winning the championship because he was kind of neck and neck.
He was the guy. He was ahead of Max for a while, and you can't take that from Perez. He had a really good season. Ferrari started off super strong, and he came back and went for blow with Leclerc in that car. And he did have a lot of reliability issues. He did have a lot of issues throughout the season that kind of put him on the back foot compared to Max. And there was a couple races where Max had a better, a little bit better car because he had all the upgrades, and there wasn't enough upgrades for Perez. And there's so much stuff that's happening in the background that everyone doesn't quite realize. Oh, well, Perez isn't able to keep up with Max. Well, when they come up with upgrades into the car, and there's only one upgrade, whose car is it going to be on? It's going to be on Max. So, and it's one of those situations, and we've seen this, and this is part of the reason that this turmoil happened with Max and Ricciardo. It was the same thing. They took a wing off Ricciardo's car to put it onto Max's car because Max damaged his wing. It's there's stuff that's happened in the past. Yeah. That Red Bull just kind of favor. They always have their number one driver, and they are one of the teams that distinguishes number one. I was just about to say number two driver
for better or for worse.
Yeah, and most other teams start off the season, and it's like, okay, well, after the 3 races, who's leading? okay, well, you're the number one right now until the other person comes back at you.
Right.
Where Red Bull, Perez was ahead of Max for the longest time, and they still pushed Max.
Yeah.
So it's they have to realize, like, you know, it's Max's team. No matter what, it's Max's team. He'll always have a better car. He'll always have the best new upgrades and stuff like that, which is not the best way of running a team. But hey, if that's the way Horner wants to do it, then that's the way Horner does it.
That's just the thing, right? Yeah. With what happened in Brazil on the radio. It's not, look, between the two drivers, that's their thing. Yeah. And if that's how they want to settle scores, that's how they want to settle scores. But on the radio, my biggest issue with how Max handled that was on the radio. Yeah. You got hundreds of employees that build your car. Yeah. You had the fastest car on the grid, and you can drive, there's no doubt about that. But when you have equipment that is far superior to everybody else, you have to walk with a certain level of grace. Yes. Yeah? So for him to come on the radio and be like, let's be clear about that. I never want to have this conversation again.
Are we clear?
Yeah, it sounded very much like he was the CEO, or you know what I mean? And it's like, no, you're the driver. Yeah. You're the driver for this car, and you're very good. But there are a handful of other very good guys on the grid that put in that car would win 15 races. Yeah.